What's up guys, my name is Ace, and welcome to Versus. This is a series where I take two elements from a game that are somewhat similar, and I put them side by side, compare the stats of them, and let you guys know which one I feel is better. In today's episode, we're going to be going into the SMG category and looking at the grease gun versus the Ribeyrolles. So these two SMGs statistically are very similar in this game. Let's start off with the damage profile, and as you can see here, they have identical damage profiles. Both of them are going to be a 3, 4, or 5 shot kill. As for rate of fire, this is where we see the key difference between these two guns. The grease gun has a standard rate of fire of 545 rounds per minute, whereas the Ribeyrolles has a rate of fire of 588 rounds per minute, which is actually just a little bit better than the grease gun with rapid fire equipped on it. So essentially what you're getting with the Ribeyrolles as far as rate of fire goes is a grease gun with built-in rapid fire. This means, obviously, when you compare the time to kill, since they have the same damage but the Ribeyrolles has a faster rate of fire, the Ribeyrolles is going to have a noticeably faster time to kill compared to the grease gun. This doesn't tell the whole story though, so let's move on to ranges. As you can see here, quite surprisingly, the Ribeyrolles also has a slightly longer range than the grease gun in both its 3-shot and 4-shot kill ranges. This is actually the opposite of what I said in my gun guide when I was doing the gun guide with the Ribeyrolles, but I think what happened when I was doing that is I was actually looking at the Sterling's range chart rather than the grease gun's range chart, and therefore I was a little bit off when I mentioned that in the Ribeyrolles gun guide. It turns out it does have longer ranges than the grease gun, even though the difference is relatively minor, and realistically speaking, you aren't going to see too much of a difference as far as the range performance goes. This brings us to the next group of stats, which is aim down sight and sprint out time. As you can see here, they have identical aim down sight and sprint out times at 190 milliseconds. Same thing goes with their movement speed. They're identical for both these guns. We get a standard 100% movement speed with these, and we get an aim down sight stray speed of 76%, which is the faster category for the SMGs. As for magazine capacity, finally the grease gun comes out on top over the Ribeyrolles in some area. It has a 30-round magazine, whereas the Ribeyrolles only has a 25-round magazine. And with extended mags, the grease gun is 45, whereas the Ribeyrolles is 37. Our reload time, on the other hand, is completely identical between these two. As for hipfire, once again, identical hipfire spreads for these two guns. And this pretty much just leaves us with recoil as far as the stats that actually matter go. When you look at both of these guns side by side, you really don't see too much of a difference in the recoil. Both of them generally kick upwards with a little bit of side-to-side bounce as they go vertical. If you were just looking at the recoil patterns on the wall, they're pretty much indistinguishable. I will say though, based on my personal experience, this is something that is subjective. I personally feel like the grease gun is just slightly easier to control. There's something about the grease gun that makes me more confident at challenging people at slightly longer ranges than the Ribeyrolles. This could be partially due to the iron sights. I'm not a huge fan of the Ribeyrolles iron sights, whereas the grease gun iron sights are amazing on certain variants, the variants that I use at least, like the Candy. And therefore, while statistically they're pretty much identical when it comes to recoil, on a subjective level, I slightly lean towards the grease gun. So overall though, when we put all of these stats together, it's pretty obvious to me at least that the Ribeyrolles does come out on top here. It's got some great upsides over the grease gun, like it essentially has the rapid fire attachment built in for free, and therefore it has a faster time to kill, without really sacrificing accuracy to any super noticeable degree. It also has slightly longer ranges than the grease gun, and every other category is pretty much equal aside from the magazine capacity, which realistically, I don't really have much of a problem with having a slightly lower magazine capacity due to the fact that these SMGs have relatively low rates of fire, and therefore you're not generally burning through magazines super quickly. Of course, this is just my opinion though, based on these stats as well as my experience with both of these guns. I'd love to know in the comment section below, what do you guys think? Which one is better in your opinion, the grease gun or the Ribeyrolles? If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.